It happened again. My ADHD brain fixated on something it probably shouldn't have. Gambling. I've been a casual enjoyer of the gacha game Zenless Zone Zero, or ZZZ, for quite a while now, and with the new character Lucia that was recently released, my brain fell for the bait and got absorbed once more into the Hoyoverse. But I decided that I'm not leaving without some creative satisfaction this time. Something about this cast really just sticks with me, and looking online, a lot of people seem to agree. Well, for most of them. There's just something about the art style and art direction that gets people talking. I wanted to take some time to understand why I'm so drawn to these characters. Unfortunately for me, this led me down an insane rabbit hole of creation myths and deities. For context, I wanted to do a thorough analysis of each character's design in this game. Things like the etymology of their name, the style of clothing, their lore, and other niche references and Easter eggs in their design. I also wanted to rank them, because who doesn't love a good tier list? Originally, I was going to do this thorough analysis for every character in this game. There's only like 30 or something characters, right? Shouldn't be too bad. But then I started, actually looking at these characters, and my god, the amount of complexity and depth that goes into some of these designs is just insane. Like this one, Koleda, who's inspired by the Slavic pseudo-deity of New Year's, Koleda. Or how this cat lady is a walking representation of Shinto. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, because of how surprisingly complex these characters are, I narrowed the scope of this video down to just one faction of characters. And that was still too much. So now, here I am, with one character, Nekomiya. Why Nekomiya? Well, it has to do with this barcode. This barcode, located on Nekomiya's forehead, has probably been one of the biggest mysteries in ZZZ since the character was announced. It consists of a triangle divided into 6 parts. Underneath this triangle lies a line with 2 squares on each end. What's baffling is how obviously this design was placed. Like, it's probably the first thing you noticed, or anyone else noticed when they first saw this character. Yet, no one ever mentions it. Like, it's not discussed in her lore, on her wiki, none of the characters ever mention it once, as far as I'm aware. Online discussions about this barcode usually end in memes, or in vague connections to her experimented past. And, while I think the latter can explain why this design is here, I wanted to try to understand what this design represents. Before I analyze Nekomiya, however, I have to explain the basic premise of ZZZ. These underlying story elements are directly tied to a lot of the characters' designs in this game. Also, it will make me seem slightly less crazy when I start getting into my theories. Like, you're probably still gonna think I'm crazy, but at this point, I've gone too far. I need to share my insanity. For those who are new, ZZZ takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity is screwed. Massive supernatural black holes called hollows are engulfing our planet. If you enter one of these hollows, you'll be met with a labyrinthian design that makes it nearly impossible to escape. While inside, there are deadly monsters called ethereals, and a mysterious substance that permeates the area known as ether. If you consume too much ether, you transform into an ethereal. As far as we know, this process is irreversible. People, for one reason or another, want to explore these hollows. The problem is, traversing these hollows is extremely risky. But luckily, that's where you come in. You play as Wise and Belle, 2 siblings that own a small store in New Erdu, the last major city left on Earth. Unfortunately, being a small video store owner isn't going to pay the bills. So, naturally, the best way to make a few extra bucks is to help lunatics explore death realms. This is known as being a proxy. As a proxy, we help people navigate through hollows. Now, our fragile bodies wouldn't stand a chance in the hollow. To circumvent this, we use a special robot called a Bangboo, who we've named Eos. Through these marketable plushies, we can safely help people navigate these hollows. Unfortunately for us, navigating these spheres of death is a health and safety hazard. Therefore, being a proxy isn't exactly legal. So, to avoid the feds, we go by our online pseudonym, Faithin. And that's the premise of ZZZ. We get commissioned by different people to help them explore hollows. In return, we get paid. Now, is it a coincidence that our online pseudonym is the same name as the Greek god Phaethon, the son of the sun god Helios? Or that we were trained in an academy called Helios Academy? Or that the new city Erdu is likely a shortened name of the river Eridanos, which is the same river that Phaethon fell into and died in? Or that a robot is named Eos after the Greek god Eos, the god of dawn, who is Helios' sister, and is known for opening the gates for Helios? Or that ether comes from the primordial god Ether and is the same divine pure essence that other Greek gods breathed?
Fear. Suffering.
Enough yapping. Let's talk about cats. Nekomiya's entire design revolves around Shinto. Her name is broken into two parts, Neko, meaning cat, and Miya, meaning shrine. But not just any shrine. The particular kanji used in her name, Miya, refers to a special kind of shrine in Shinto. It indicates a shrine that houses a special kami. In Shinto, the word kami refers to deities or spirits. They are spirits of varying power that typically possess inanimate objects or plants. So, a more holistic interpretation of her name would be Cat Shrine of a Kami. With Shinto in mind, her hairstyle is inspired by the female priests that would work on Shinto shrines, known as Miko, or Shrine Maiden. The Miko are known for having long black ponytails tied off with white and red ribbons. We can see the same white and red ribbons that tie Nekomiya's hair. There's also this unique pattern on her bow tie, however, we'll have to put a pin in that for now. If we zoom out a bit, this is also where we see the inspiration for her color palette. The red pants, known as hakama, and the white top, known as kosode. This bell collar is a suzu. In Shinto, the ringing of these special bells is said to call certain kami, while warding off evil. Her arm sleeves have this rope-like adornment, which is inspired by the Shinto shimenawa. These long rope structures are usually placed on objects known as yorishiro. In Shinto, these objects are believed to naturally attract and are often possessed by kami. People can also be possessed by kami. When this happens, they are known as kamigakari. We'll come back to this. On her back, we see red tassels, which are commonly tied to special charms in Shinto, known as omamori. Man, I wasn't expecting Silent Hill F to make an appearance. These omamori are usually made from paper or wood, and wrapped inside of them are small items that hold significant religious meanings. They're usually used for a variety of good reasons, such as protecting a user or avoiding evil. The traditional way to tie knots of an omamori is referenced in her design here. It's a bit more symmetrical to keep the design a bit cleaner, but the inspiration is clear. If you're still not convinced about the Shinto connection, there's even a tori written under her corset. In Shinto, these tori mark the entrance of a sacred place. Normally, the tori we see today are this distinct orange or vermilion color, but white or non-painted tori are a bit more rare. Also, notice how there isn't a third pillar on the top of this tori. This all points to an older or simpler tori, something you would see at a more traditional shrine in Shinto. There is one specific and very important shrine in Shinto that has this single, simpler white tori, Amano Iwato. It's believed that this was the cave that the sun god Amaterasu hid in during her scuffle with her brother Susanoo. Uh-oh, sun gods again, but I'm getting ahead of myself. There's also this strange attachment to the tori. We'll come back to that as well. Trust me, I need to set this all up. Let's talk about her weapons. Nekomiya is seen wielding a pair of daggers. More specifically, they are a pair of modernized tantos. Tantos have become symbols of cutting ties with worldly desires, false beliefs, and specifically negative energy. Conversely, her arms have positive signs indicating positive energy. While we're looking at her appendages, her leggings have the word tsubaki. This is a specific flower in Shinto that is believed to house a kami when they visit the real world. There's even a specific Shinto shrine called the Tsubaki Grand Shrine, which was created after World War II in the United States. This shrine in particular is believed to house a very special kami known as Ame no Uzume, the goddess of dawn. There's a key and subtle part about Nekomiya's design that I've saved until now to talk about. It's about what inspired her design, the Miko, the Shinto Shrine Maidens. Remember when I said when a person becomes possessed by a kami, they are called kamigakari? Well, see, the Shrine Maidens of Shinto would get themselves possessed by kami on purpose. The most famous example of this among the Miko is a dance known as the Kagura. The Kagura is a dance that would openly invite the god of humor, Ame no Uzume, to possess Miko performing this dance. The Kagura has two phases, the Mai and the Odori. While the Mai phase of the dance consists of slow, circular movements, the Odori consists of quick leaping and jumping, stressing activation and energy. Sounds familiar? Once the female shrine maiden enters this possessed state, she switches into spontaneous leaping movements, just like the movements we see in Nekomiya. Now here's where my analysis comes in. Shinto is an animism-based religion. It believes that all inanimate objects, flowers, and as we've now seen, people can be possessed by spirits or kami. From all the design points we've collected, the Tsubaki flower for being the resting places for kami, the Suzu bell for summoning kami, the rope signifying an object being possessed by a kami, and even her name being a shrine for kami. It seems to me that Nekomiya represents a shrine maiden being fully possessed by the kami Ame no Uzume, the most famous kami to possess Miko specifically. But Nate, why are you saying kami? Isn't this clearly Nekomata, the yokai? In Japanese folklore, there are evil spirits similar to kami called yokai. These spirits are generally what's to be blamed when local disasters strike a community, such as fires or plagues. What's important to understand for this video is that these yokai are not the same as kami. The quickest way to distinguish between these two is that in Shinto, yokai are unworshipped spirits, and kami are worshipped spirits. Looking back at Nekomiya, the fact that she has two tails is indeed a neat reference to the Japanese yokai, Nekomata, which is often depicted as having two tails. Nekomata is also a friendly nickname given to her by various characters in the game, so that reference checks out. That being said, the Nekomiya is a yokai theory doesn't hold up. For one, Nekomiya's personality is completely off. Like, if you look into Nekomata are cats associated with death and destruction. They are commonly blamed for a variety of tragedies. They are far darker and more malevolent than most other cat yokai. Nekomata are described as bringing gloom and malevolence wherever they go. In stark contrast, our character, Nekomiya, is a bright and cheerful character, often seen being silly or dancing, and is much more carefree than most of the cast. Nekomiya brings joy and humor everywhere she goes. Personality-wise, these two could not be further from each other. Secondly, if we go off the evidence we have already presented, summoning kami, it wouldn't make any sense that we summoned a yokai. The practice of Shinto, and specifically the core function of Miko, is to ward off evil spirits and summon generally positive or helpful kami. Why would all of these summoning techniques for kami summon an evil yokai? Even if we ignore all the signs pointing to summoning a kami, and instead we randomly summoned this evil yokai, Nekomata, why is our Nekomiya clearly not evil? It just doesn't add up, at least to me. Alright, so now that I've hopefully convinced you Nekomiya is not Nekomata, what does any of this mean? It means God is dead. Alright, I can finally talk about the barcode. Hopefully I've demonstrated how deliberate the storytellers and character designers are in ZZZ up to this point. So this design being so unique and directly in our face doesn't feel like some kind of accident. Looking at the design from this perspective, there's nothing I can come up with. But there's one last piece to the puzzle that can shift our perspective. Summarizing everything so far, I believe Nekomiya is a walking Miko, or shrine maiden of Shinto. From all the points I've made before, she's possessed by a kami, specifically Ame no Uzume. The link between Ame no Uzume and Miko is a special dance called the Kagura. If I can find an example of Nekomiya doing this dance, we might be able to find something that was hidden before. With this in mind, I looked back at her promotional trailer and saw her do this move. This to me kind of looks like the Kagura dance, but what's odd is that she's upside down, her hands acting as her feet. However, if we look closer, we notice that her sleeves also are red, kind of like the pants that the Miko wear. Okay, so maybe we really are upside down? Okay, here's a leap. What if we take this barcode and flip it? This isn't a barcode. This is the tale of Izanagi and Izanami. Long ago, before the Earth was formed, two twin gods were created, Izanagi and Izanami. They were the last of the Kamiona Nile, the 7 generations of the Age of Gods. Izanagi and Izanami's creators ordered the twins to shape the Earth. To do this, they stood upon the floating bridge of heaven, and used the heavenly jeweled spear to churn the chaotic waters below. The water, dripping from the spear, created the first island, Onogoro. Now, let's take this story and look at this barcode again. The top bar represents the floating bridge of heaven. The 2 squares represent the 2 gods, Izanagi and Izanami, who stood upon the bridge of heaven when creating the lands of Earth. The triangle represents the tip of the heavenly jeweled spear they used to churn the waters. The spear being split represents the drops of salty water that fell from the spear, creating the first island. And finally, the 7 divisions, including the floating bridge of heaven, represents the Kamiyo Nanayo, the 7 generations of the Age of Gods. This silly barcode is an abstract representation of one of the most famous creation myths in all of Shinto. With this new perspective, we can go back and analyze the 3 dots on Nekomiya's hair tie and the strange torii-mark. Let's look at the dots first. They have to do with the creation of the 3 precious children. After Izanagi and Izanami created the lands, they began to have children. However, Izanami died while giving birth to the fire god. This made Izanagi furious, killing the fire god in a fit of rage. Afterwards, he went down to the land of the dead, known as Yomi, and tried to revive her, but he was too late. Izanami had already eaten the fruit of death and was a rotting corpse. Horrified, Izanagi ran back to the land of the living. After he returned, feeling contaminated from the lands of the Yomi, he began to wash himself. In doing so, he created the 3 precious children. Let's take the same logic we took for the barcode and flip this image. Now, let's follow along with the mythos. As Izanagi washed his left eye, he created Amaterasu, the sun god we mentioned before. As he washed his right eye, he created the moon god, Tsukuyomi. As he washed his nose, he created Susanoo, the storm god. This whole process is where the Shinto practice for purification, or misogi, comes from. Finally, we can take a look at the strange attachment to the torii that we saw from earlier. Let's flip it. Now I'm certain it's tied to the special Shinto shrine, Amano Iwato, the cave that Amaterasu hid in. This image specifically represents the cave that all the other kami met in to discuss how to bring Amaterasu out of hiding. The strange attachment from this perspective represents the special stones visitors would stack at this shrine. What's more, the torii, when flipped, now represents another special shrine called Asetsu Matsusha, which were used to enshrine very special or popular kami. There is one question that keeps rattling in my brain. Why? Why does the kami Ame no Uzume inhabit Nekomiya? Like, why is it this specific spirit the character designers went for? Why not Amaterasu or Susanoo, or any of the countless kami in Shinto? Well, here's my interpretation. Because the world is dying. In ZZZ, we are being swallowed by hollows, voids, black as night, people are suffering and panic is widespread. There is only a single city left for all of humanity. Loss is a major theme for most of our cast. We lose our family, our friends, our memories. Everyone is missing their own sun god. And in turn, we are missing hope. Ame no Uzume coming back to possess Nekomiya is a sign of great joy, but in the universe of ZZZ, it also speaks to how bleak things are. We are in a time where once again, Amaterasu, our sun, is hiding. But it's not just about being bleak. The story of Amaterasu and Ame no Uzume is a strange and beautiful tale. To me, this moment when Ame no Uzume lured Amaterasu out of her cave tells how, in the darkest moments, when there is no light, no sun, no hope, you dance, you laugh. The act of bringing joy to others can bring back the sun, and in turn, bring back our hope. Because no matter how bleak things get, if you have hope, you are truly never lost. S tier. Bet you forgot this was a tier list video. I don't even have this character. Don't worry though, I have 6 Antons. Thanks, Sayu. Dude, I look so pale. Holy crap. Okay, so the question now is, am I right? This is the part of the video where I show you the smoking gun, the interview with the game director or art director of this game that confirms that my suspicions go beyond just my insane No, I don't have that clip. In fact, it's been surprisingly difficult to do any sort of research on who the artists are in this game. Beyond a few notable ones, I have someone on my Discord who's a little bit more in the know with these types of things, and I guess this is the industry standard. There's just a lot of NDAs surrounding these gacha games and these companies, which really sucks. It sucks. Like, I don't want to end this video with just my crazy conspiracy theory and then say, that's just a theory, folks. bye. I wanted you guys to leave with something a little bit more concrete or meaningful. So I guess this is why I'm making this part of the conclusion. But that did get me thinking about something, right? Why are the artists that we look at the ones that we look at? Like, why is it that we look at Michelangelo or Van Gogh or Raphael or any of these other big notable artists? Like, yes, their work is really impressive, right? Like, there's no doubt about that. Mechanically, these artists are incredibly skilled. But why them? It's not like they were the only ones that were making art at the time, right? There were thousands of artists that did all kinds of great work that looked great. I think one thing that gets overlooked a lot is who these artists are. Like, did you know that Michelangelo wasn't supposed to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling? It was actually Raphael. He was the one that was supposed to paint it originally. But Michelangelo was getting so many clients that Raphael was getting really jealous. So apparently Raphael pushed Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling, kind of like in some vein, like, I'm better than you, look, you can't do this, look how bad he's gonna be, see, he sucks, I'm the better artist. And turns out no, Michelangelo was able to not only do it, but do it really well. He signed his work in the Sistine Chapel ceiling. I think that's really cool. You know, the Starry Night. Van Gogh thought the Starry Night was terrible. Unfortunately, Van Gogh suffered from mental health issues. In 1889, he voluntarily admitted himself to a psychiatric hospital in St. Remy. It was from his window there that he created some of his most well-known paintings, including the Starry Night. It's also believed that he only sold one painting in his entire life, probably due to how little he believed in his own art. Doesn't this add to the value of the art? Like, it's already really mechanically impressive, but I mean, I feel like knowing these things about the artists adds a lot of meaning to the art itself. Like, that's not a crazy rabbit hole theory, right? Like, that's something that we can all agree on, I think. I think that's a pretty uncontroversial take. So even if my theory is crazy, even if I'm completely insane and none of it makes any sense, I just wanted this to be one takeaway from this video. If you guys decide to make something today, just know that you are intrinsically a part of it. Like, you are a part of the art that you make. You're not a machine that guesses. You're a person making decisions. You may not know how it's going to turn out or even how well it will be perceived, but you will have created it with intention. And that intention is the birthplace of meaning. Oh my God, did I do it? Did I just become a video essayer? Thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to subscribe. It really helps a small channel like mine a lot. Let me know if you want more videos like this, or if there's a character you want me to look at next. Shout out to my lovely patrons, and my super awesome and hot girlfriend who proofread this I didn't write that. Thank you again to all my lovely patrons. Alton Praise, Bastion Saber, Basket of Clementines, Blue Bomber, Prism, Cool Whip, Draco, Dragonbjorn, Flint Hero, Garchomp, Garridan, Gold, Gun Game, My Sweetheart Haley, Kiri, Mawile, Mama Jace, Morgan, Naruto, Nico Moding, Nutty, Royry, Seaman, Simply Pirate, Swedish Fox, The DKG, Unseen Blade, Violet, and Waffles.